And you don't seem to understand. A shame you seemed an honest man, and all the fears you hold so dear.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Serial Episodes Lain, number 2, where we cover Layer 02 Girls. So this is the monthly show that we put on because of our Patreon supporters. It was a milestone. And now we've just finished watching Layer Episode 2, so Layer 02. And before we get into Layer 02, I just want to do a quick recap of what happened in Episode 1. So, Episode 1, we saw there was a girl called Lane, and there was a girl at her school who died.
Shisa.
Yep. And Shisa is sending out emails from beyond the grave, and everyone in the class sort of is getting these emails, but they think it might be possibly a prank. But Lane gets one, and she's able to reply to it, and Shisa basically said that there was, the way to meet God was in the Wired, and she still exists in the Wired.
Yes, Shisamon.
Yeah, it's Chisamon.
That's
definitely.
what I said.
Yeah. And...
in this episode...
before and then Lane has a hallucination of some girl on the train tracks, which is still unexplained. So yeah, on to the synopsis of Layer 2 then.
Present day. Present time.
There's a drug called Excella, which is a little machine pill that you that you eat to make you feel like your brain is working faster. Fine. There's a club called Siberia, which is a hilarious name.
That is a funny name.
And there's Lane. And a bunch of people from our school say, hey, we thought you saw someone like you at a club, and she was really confident and really cool, but that couldn't be you. You're not that confident or cool. So it must have been someone who just kind of looked like you. And then they sort of go back and forth about that, and they ask Lane to come with them to the club that night. And Lane looks like she's being run over by a truck.
Yeah, but that's her, permanent state of being, is that she just sort of stares.
I know, but this is particularly truck-like. Anyway, so that happens. Then she goes home, and her new computer arrives, and she doesn't have any email. And then she gets requested to go to the club again, and she says, okay. She goes to the club.
Well, she doesn't really say okay, she just sort of just
shows up. That means she said okay. She goes to the club, and there is a shooting of 2 people who die, and then the person sees Lane and appears to recognize her and starts spouting complete nonsense. And then he's about to shoot her, and she says something about how everyone's connected, and then he shoots himself.
Yeah, and
that's...
her voice is different.
Yeah, also it's the guy who recognizes her as the guy from the club at the start. And that's the whole episode. So that's actually fairly clear, right? There are some hallucinations along the way. She's seeing some people who are standing in shadows and looking at her and things. But
yeah, and it's very dark ocean from 02.
Yeah. But as far as things that happen... over a 20-minute period, I just described it to you in, I believe, 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah, and yeah, the second episode, basically the main plot is fairly easy to describe, but then there's sort of weird things that are unexplained at the moment, like when Lane leaves her house to go to school, there's a guy standing outside.
Yeah, but right now, any of that weird mystery stuff is just hallucinations until proven otherwise. So I don't think it's really worth commenting on.
Yeah, like the girl that Lane sees in the corridor, and then some weird shadows start showing up, and the girl sort of passes through. It's probably mainly
Was that
just
Shisa?
Maybe.
I don't remember if we saw what she
and then
looked like.
then she had the same face as the girl who was hit by the train in her other hallucination in the first episode.
Yeah, so I think that's Shisa.
Yeah, maybe.
Present day. Present time.
It's just slow. And I know, look, I said this to May while we were watching it, but basically, I'm waiting for, I guess, the thing to happen, or for it to all come together, and for me to go, oh, now it all makes sense. But I understand, because of how everyone talks about the show, that it's still confusing when you've seen it a few times, which tells me it never comes together. It's always just going to be weirdness for weirdness' sake, and it's probably not going to get a lot better than this, or faster. So... there is a possibility, and I might change my tune on this entirely. I'm open to that possibility. But there is a chance that Lane is actually a bad show that everyone likes because they couldn't figure it out, and they assumed, well, if I can't work it out, it must be good.
Well, I don't think that's the case. I'm quite confident in it because people have said it is hard to get, but it is a good show, and it's got some good thoughts, and it was very it was ahead of its time, and maybe it hasn't particularly aged well, but people did say that it was it was a very ahead of its time anime, and it's a good anime in that sense. And I don't think I've ever heard anything bad about it, so I do still have high hopes for it.
Hey, people say that about David Lynch films, but have you ever seen Mulholland Drive?
No.
Terrible.
See, I think it may just be like the first few episodes are a bit slow, but then it gets better. Like, I don't know, it's not boring. Like, there are things that
I
happen.
find that it is. Except for the end of this episode, I felt the whole thing was, like, almost boring me to tears.
Yeah, but, well, I guess it's mainly just showing you this girl who just stares at things a lot. Like, a lot of the time, she's just staring at things. And we also see her sister, and I think her name's Mika.
Yeah?
And
was she introduced in any other episode?
No, she was just there. She was also weirdly staring. And that's the thing that's really strange about Lain, is that she's spending most of her time as a character just staring, and she's not like... She's a different kind of protagonist because she's not really doing anything, like, she's not, you know, driving any force at all. She's just sort of going along with what's happening. Like, she's not like, okay, let's do this, let's investigate, okay, let's do this. She is just going along with whatever is happening.
Yeah, and there's only so much I can watch someone stare off into the distance, I guess.
Yeah, and that's, you know, something will happen and she'll just stand there and stare. And then, you know, someone will talk to her and she'll just stand there and stare. She might, like, reply something very basic, like, I don't know how to use the Navi system or whatever.
Which is fine. Oh, I don't know who bought this, even though I asked my dad to buy it.
Yeah,
okay.
I explicitly requested my dad to buy this thing, but I don't know what it's doing here.
Well, I'm surprised. Let's speak to this delivery man for 2 full minutes, which accomplished nothing except telling us this thing was good and new, which was implied by it showing up and being new.
And also, I'm pretty sure, effectively, it's what the dad said in episode 1.
Boy, is it.
Yeah, when he basically says, oh, you want a Navi system? Okay, they're the new things, and you can go to the wired, and with the better computers, you can just go into the wired without problems, and...
You know what a good show would have done by now?
What?
Again, like, I might turn around and say it's a great show at the end, but a good show would have introduced you what the Wired actually is by episode 2. If it's core to the show, you should know what it is. I shouldn't be sitting here going, I don't really know what the Wired is.
Maybe it's trying to give us some mystery to what it is, but even though the character, which is strange because the characters know what it is, so we shouldn't. We should know as much as Lain does.
Yeah, mystery is not okay when it's just a thing you need to know about the world. It's like, as a really good example, oh god, I can't remember what they're called. I'm going to call them the Seven, but it's not actually I don't think that's what they're called. In the King Killer Chronicle, which is a really good book series, there's an evil group. God, I'm going to call them the Seven. I think because there's 7 of them, but basically there's this group, and they're a total mystery, and everyone's heard of them, but no one knows anything about them. So it does only slowly sort of tell you even the bits and pieces everyone knows, but because no one really knows the answer, and those are all rumors, it's okay for them to wait. That's fine, even though it's important world knowledge. It's not necessary for how the world functions. Whereas the Wired, I think, is increasingly important in this story.
Oh no, it's very important, and the characters keep on talking about it, and we know from the end of the first episode that there is, you know, maybe some kind of god, and even the guy who goes crazy in Siberia, he references the Wired, and he mentions, I don't have anything to do with your scattered gods or the Wired. And that's quite interesting, like it's saying, okay, there's some holy being that has something to do with the Wired, but we don't even know what the Wired is. I know what the Wired is because I read the blurb on the DVD packet. It's like the internet, right? It's like a Second Life-y internet thing, right?
Something like that, I guess.
Yeah, and it's maybe I missed it, but yeah, I also don't necessarily remember the show saying, hey, this is the Wired, or giving us any sort of like small info dump. It gave us that random info dump about the drug, Excella, which I'm not sure who was meant to like be watching that. It wasn't like a thing on TV. It just was like, it seemed to me like a commercial that for some reason we were watching.
I thought it was for like the police.
Or maybe, or that. Yeah, it was like this briefing, but we don't get any context to who is watching this briefing. We don't know if Lane's looking at it. We don't know who's looking at it. It's just a thing that they put in the episode, but I feel like it doesn't have much context for it, if that makes sense.
There's a term for it, and I can't bring it to mind. It's that sort of day. But it feels... I guess I'd go with style over substance as the term I'm going to use. It means basically the same thing as what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. But I feel like what they've got here is an art director who has a lot of good ideas as far as how the show should be presented and he wants to imply all these different things. But then thus far, like they've got 10 minutes worth of script over 2 full 20-minute episodes. So it's hard for us to say whether that script is any good because I feel like it's being drip-fed to us. And you're allowed to call me impatient for not liking that, but I don't necessarily like this style here. I think a show can take its time and be slow burn if it wants, but I think it has to be entertaining while it's slowly burning you.
Well, I feel like a show, and especially with the first few episodes, it should draw you in. It should do something that makes you want to watch more. The first episode kind of did that. It intrigued me. It was like, okay, so where are we going now? What is this? It was intriguing in that way of like, I wanted some answers about what was going on. And I don't feel like the second episode, Layer 02, actually gave us any actual answers. It just gave us more questions. Like, okay, there's this drug that's making people go insane. And then there's this guy who took the drug and he's saying something about the gods of the wired.
I think what illustrates it most precisely is we can draw down what is the most interesting thing about Lain from episode 1 that makes you go, okay, I need to know what happens. It's that a person from her school died and sent her an email from beyond the grave.
Yes.
You go, that's a mystery I want to know about. What is something that that happens multiple times in the second episode so that you know, oh, we're just not going to get answers for that either now or at least for a long time.
She checks
her emails like 4 times and she doesn't have any. So the thing you cared about the most is never brought up in this episode. I said at the end, when we finished watching it, I don't know if the show improves, but I don't feel like watching any more of it right now. Like, I've seen shows that are, every time you get to the end of the episode, I need to see more of it. I need to see more. Yeah. We just finished watching Game of Thrones, and I've seen it before, and I'm still interested. I'll watch the next one.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I could watch another. I mean, we don't have time to watch another one because we had to do this. But no,
I'd watched another one.
I'd be very happy to do that. And same with early on Atmon. When we were watching the first few episodes together, and even though I'd already seen them, both of us, we wanted to see more of it because it was intriguing. And I mean, Atmon's a lot easier to follow than Lain. I don't have to super pay that much attention when Atmon's on because I get it. It's not difficult. This thing, I'm worried that if I look away for a second, I'm going to miss something very important.
But I think you might be misunderstanding it. I think the opposite is the case. I think if you looked away for 5 minutes, you wouldn't miss anything important. I think lots of stuff happens. I think lots of weird things happen, but I don't think any of them are important.
See, I have faith in this because a lot of people have said that it's a really good, it's a must-see anime, and a lot of people rave about it, and there's like a lot of people have seen it, and I feel like to get that sort of high acclaim, it should at the end, which obviously we haven't seen yet, we've seen 2 episodes, it should wrap everything together in a nice little package, and maybe it does that. You
know what? People like Digimon, and I thought that was terrible, and people still like it, so I don't think popularity is necessarily an indicator of quality, but look, I'm going to give it the golden before I say, oh, this is probably unequivocally a bad show, which means it has 2 more episodes to impress me, and it has failed to do so thus far.
Well, I still feel like the first episode was a lot better than this one.
That's true. Shouldn't be going downhill in your second episode.
And I feel like, I don't know, I'll still watch more because we have to, but also I kind of wanted to see how it goes. Like, there's definitely some mystery that's going on. I'd like to solve that mystery.
I feel the same way about this as I do about Frontier. If I never had to watch any more of it, I'd be happy. There are lots of shows I get in the middle of them, and I go, I definitely want to see more of that. Lucha Underground, I haven't watched in ages, but I'd love to watch more of that. It's just a time issue. With this thing, I go, if I never watch any more, I'd feel good. I'd feel happy I don't need to see any more of this at this stage.
Well, hopefully, I'm hoping it gets better.
All right, we'll see if I turn around.
Present day. Present time.
Do we have any theme discussion for this episode? It's just more hallucinations, right?
Yeah, it was nothing.
It was just... And the episode's called Girls, and I guess that's because we see the girl she's in the class, which is... We already saw Jury. She was the one who was crying because of she got an email from beyond the grave from a friend.
The only thing I would say that I could pull out of this episode that is new information is that it is clear that the youth of this whatever near future from the 90s, so probably the early 2000s this is meant to represent, is, small... First of all, you got cyber drugs is one thing. As an integration of technology into society, and you have the youth being more, they're going to clubs and they're...
And there's, the kids who are very much obviously younger than Lane by quite a few years.
Yeah, who are also there.
Yeah, and they're there and they're just saying, oh, you know, we're going up the stairs. And
You know what it makes me think of?
what?
Those stupid pictures for the underage clubs.
Oh,
of all the
gosh.
14-year-olds just being embarrassing.
Oh, that's so awkward.
They don't even have the excuse of alcohol. They're just
Yeah.
being really embarrassing,
So I guess there's that. We got like an interesting insight into this world.
I guess, if you call
About-
it interesting.
But, you know, all these
up
people
to
go to
you.
clubs, even if they're in high school. And then there's that sort of the woman who gives the Acela to the guy, and she's like in a gas mask.
Yeah.
That was weird. So there's weird little things that like kind of, you know, pique my interest a little bit. So I'm not going to completely write off this show completely like Jay is. But I mean, Jay
I
and
haven't
I...
written it off yet. 2 more episodes.
Yeah, I know, but you're prepared to. You've got the pen in your hand, the paper's in front of you, and you're just like...
I'm about to sign.
And you're basically just looking at the time and saying, okay, we're only 2 episodes in, alright, but I'm still ready. Like, you're preparing yourself. I'm just sitting here with hope in my eyes, just hoping that this show is as amazing as everyone said. I'm not going to say it's bad, like Jay is, because, yeah, I don't know, I feel like it has to answer some questions before it can be said if it's good or bad. I think I'm enjoying it so far. I think that it's got me intrigued with some weird things. I like the concept of the Wired. I think that's interesting. I would like to know more about the Wired. And yeah, do you have any other thoughts about the general themes besides, you know, there are drugs, the kids are all partying, there are hallucinations that look like the Dark Ocean, which, I mean, it's got the same writer as the Dark Ocean episode of 02, so I'm not too surprised.
All I have to say is that Lane is sad, and so am I.
She's not sad though.
She looks a bit sad.
She is emotionless, and that's why it's, you know, it's interesting. She's got like some.
It's so interesting she's not having any feelings. Isn't that great?
I'm just saying, like she's got some mental problems probably, and it's. I don't know, she's hallucinating and she's seeing things and she's reacting to people differently. She doesn't have that many social skills, and I think that as a protagonist, that is an interesting concept. Do we have any more similarities to Tamers, or we're not going to even bother talking about Tamers?
No, we're done.
Like, yeah, again, it's still staring into space, looking like Jury D-Reaper.
Like me right now.
And also the kind of, like, red bits that are in the background remind me of the D-Reaper, but besides that, they're not too many similarities. I will bring them up if we see any, but there's not that many.
Present day. Present time.
Do you have any predictions?
No, I didn't. I couldn't have possibly told you last time that go to a club, never talk about the emails again, and also a guy would die. So I'm not even going to try.
Well, I hope that she gets maybe another email telling her about the Wild, or she doesn't get an email, but she still decides to investigate the Wild, and we actually find out what the Wild is. And we find out some stuff, and she probably hallucinates some more.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts about...
Asshole.
Do you have any other thoughts about Leia 02?
No.
Present time?
Present day!
That thing, like...
The other way around, by the way.
Yeah.
Present day. Present time!
That, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, it's creepy, but it's kind of like...
I don't like it. It's annoying.
It's creepy, but it's annoying, but like it's... I don't know, for some reason it's kind of like funny to me, but it's kind of weird. I mean, it's like Lane, like the whole thing. It's just, I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit scared that present time, present day, present time, wahahaha.
It's probably intended.
Yeah, it gives me the creepers, and maybe that's good.
The creepy jeebies.
The creepy jeebies, and that's good. Like it's supposed to, I'm sure. So yeah, we'll. I think that's it for us.
I think we're gonna go now.
I think we're going to go, and then I guess we'll see you for Leia 03 Psyche, which we'll be watching a month from now, so that'll be in mid-June. Yeah. You excited for Leia 03? You can't just yawn at me in response. You excited for more Frontier? Excited for more Atmon? No. that wasn't... I agree with your response. Atmon is better than Frontier. You can contact us and stay updated. You can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this messages. You can comment on this episode or message us on SoundCloud. You can follow us on @TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, and YouTube. We have a discussion thread on With the Will, and a Reddit thread in the Lane subreddit. Because that's a thing. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Well, it's a thing. So I'll be posting the episodes once a month in the Lane subreddit, and and it's quite an active subreddit. It's got people posting like a post a day about Lane.
I bet they're like, we've been dying for a season 2 for 20 years.
And if there's anyone who's listening to this episode, not because they've listened to LostinTranslationmon, but because they just saw us, hi, and I'm sorry that we're
Actually a Digimon podcast, surprise!
We're actually a surprise Digimon podcast.
I'm sorry I don't like the show you like. Let's be real. It's hard to like.
But you're 2 episodes in, so maybe it gets better. Like, we're both coming into this with essentially the same view, which is different from Digimon, where I've seen it before and Jay hasn't.
I want to get 17 letters that say, but episode 2 was the best episode!
Oh, no. No. So, we'd also appreciate if you were to review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever app you use to listen to your podcasts. And we have a website. You can go on it. It has things related to the show, like
Stuff and things.
It's got stuff and things. It's got schedules and upcoming episodes, and yeah, it's a website. It's not the Wired. You can't access it, and there aren't any scattered gods.
I'm not sure you're going to get the website over this way.
I'm trying. You can also donate to our Patreon, which is linked in the description, and on our website. And you can start doing that from little as $1 a month, and that can get you access to the Slack chat group. And if you give a bit more, you can get things like exclusive notes, information, early and unedited episode recordings, the ability to suggest discussion topics, Skype calls with May and Jay, and more.
And thank you to our current Patreon supporters, Sam Krieger, who has a podcast called The Moncast, talks about Pokemon and Digimon. Stevie, who's Stevie Padmon on Tumblr, and they take commissions there. Wuchinglong, who you can find at twitch.tv/Wuchinglong. Metalmamemon, Joe, Anime Guy, who is Anime Guy Kurosaki and the number 1 on YouTube. Chakmon, Ishbal Bamba, Hiro Lado, who's at Hiro Lado on Twitter. Jason Morosky, Ryuchi, who's Frost Magic on Archive of Our Own, Stephen Reeves, who's at WildWing64 on Twitter, Kaidawashi, Mac, Noam, Riku, Red and Garen from Breakfast with Digimon, which is another Digimon podcast you can find on SoundCloud, Shisai, who you can follow at Shisai236 on Tumblr, Corey, Kyle, the Lady Bugman, whose anime blog you can find at baguburagu.wordpress.com, Small Wolfie, who is on Tapastic as Small Wolfie and has a comic called Eden of Melancholy, Tom Glitchgoat, Azrael McCool, and Nicholas.
You can also make a one-off donation to our PayPal, which can be found also linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Agumon. Make sure to listen to the podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Bye!
知らないだろう永遠のならず者たちを